of course. So just to get the event started, everyone, my name is Bidemi. I'm corporate relations at Nottingham Entrepreneurs. This is Dean Ahmad. If you don't know him, then you're really missing out. You obviously don't watch The Apprentice. Appreciate you for being here again, Dean. Thank you very much. Just to introduce yourself, obviously I was going to give you a bit of an introduction, but you know you better than anyone else. So I feel like it's better you talk for yourself. Tell us about what you do, who you are, what you're about, if that's all right.
Yeah, no, of course. So 21 years old, so probably not different to many of you guys. Actually, and I'm sure we'll go into this later on, but actually a sort of in a weird way, University of Nottingham alumni. Went to Nottingham, born and bred in Essex, immigrant parents, both my parents are Pakistani. And as I said, born and bred in Essex, always been very entrepreneurial. Started my business up when I was about 15. And in the last 2-3 years, it's become a lot more serious. And it's what I do full time now. As many of you will know, obviously going on The Apprentice. Off the back of that, you know, it's been crazy, very, very, very humbling, crazy experience, and obviously all the stuff that goes with it. And you know, as I said earlier, someone who's an entrepreneur, I classify myself as a sort of true bred entrepreneur. And yeah, loads of ups and downs, as you do in life. But yeah, got very different sort of interests, and from a business point of view, and to be honest, from a personal point of view, where my business and businesses lie very much in the sports industry. So I'm a sports agent. So been in cricket for 4, 5, 6 years now, and now going into football slowly. And on top of that, now launching a sort of a brunch events company. And yeah, as I said earlier, I love being busy, so I'll probably keep rambling on about that.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Dean. Just to go back, because obviously a lot of the students attending this event will attend University of Nottingham. What did you study? You said you're an alumni. Like, when did you leave? Talk to me about that.
So I would have been 3rd year at the moment. Took a gap year. Went to Nottingham in a crazy way. I sort of myself always knew wasn't really for me in terms of not Nottingham, but just university in general. But went through sort of a mixture of things, but probably mostly parental pressure. Went there, to be honest, absolutely loved it. Had the time of my life, socially, met loads of cool people, unbelievable friends, and I mean, friends for life, 100%. I was back regularly last year. But that said, didn't go to a single lecture, and I'll put my hands up for that.
Love the honesty.
And I was there till about, you know, February, March time. Didn't go to a single lecture. Was doing, crazy. But yeah, very, very cool experience. Loved it there. We stayed at Broadgate Park. And to answer your question, I studied, probably pretty random, probably what people won't guess this, but philosophy, ethics, and religion. As I said, pretty random. But yeah, crazy experience. Love Nottingham, and you know, as I said, I'll always be back. And obviously, a shame I'm hearing that the situation with Corona is pretty bad there, but I'll be back soon.
That's good to hear. I'm surprised we haven't crossed paths, because I actually used to go to a school in Essex. I also lived in Broadgate Park, so I'm very surprised we haven't crossed paths. Have you heard of Cooper's?
Yeah, I live in Emerson Park. It's down the road, mate.
Okay. Well, anyways, this is not my interview, it's yours, so we'll talk about you.
No worries.
No, that's good to hear. I really appreciate your honesty about not going to lectures, kind of focusing on the business stuff. I really like that. And you spoke a little bit of truth about parents, parental pressure, not doing like what you wanted to do necessarily. You went to university because of that parental pressure. I get that. Immigrant parents as well. So talk to me about that. Like, what were your other options, like, before you went to university? Were you thinking, I want to just focus on business, or what were your other options?
So I'll give a bit of a bigger picture. I'll talk about from my journey from the start. So immigrant parents, as you say, grew up in Essex, and was always very entrepreneurial, as I said, but at the same time, always in a bit of trouble at school. Not aggressive trouble or anything like that, but more just, you know, I felt like the school system didn't really accept me. You know, I was told from very early on, and I remember it, you know, even as young as when I was in year 5, year 6, you know, people, and at the time, so I didn't really understand it, but now I do looking back on it. People, and you know, headmistress and all this sort of stuff telling me, you know, oh, you're not going to achieve anything. And to be honest, even as blatant as that, I was told, and stuff like, you know, you can't concentrate, you don't focus. If you don't focus, you're not going to be able to do this, you're not going to be able to do that. And sort of subconsciously, I think that sort of built me as a person. And I can only realise that now. But yeah, always a lot of setbacks in my life, not even people close to me, not really know the full depths of that, but a lot of resilience I think I had to show. But so as I said, yeah, very entrepreneurial. I think my first sort of hint of business was when I was like 9 or 10. My mum runs at the time, run a sort of in design interiors. It was like a interior design company, furniture and stuff like that, soft furnishing. And I was about 9, and there's something called the Ideal Home Show. Went along with her, literally as a 9, 10-year-old, and just walked around this massive like arena. I think there was one at the Excel Centre, and just started like understanding different people, different businesses, and I just loved it. I mean, my mum said that people came up to her, and I was just walking around like, on my own as a 9-year-old around this arena, and people would come up to her and be like, he's not normal, but you know, a bit strange, you know, for a 9, 10-year-old.
He's an odd one. He's an odd one. Yeah.
Exactly. Which, you know, I think actually now the odd people in life are, you know, people I look up to. But yeah, you know, then little things like, you know, stuff like I remember I went to Dagenham Market when I was probably year 9, local market. Never been there before, and at the time at our age, a lot of people similar to my age, so they might relate. Snapbacks, like those hats where you put them backwards.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
£10, sold them to my schoolmates for 20 quid, little stuff like that. And then the sweets, what a lot of people. So always loved that sort of thing. And it weren't necessarily money, it was more the process of just, you know, doing my own thing, being in charge and growing a process. I always loved my sport, so I was into football, into cricket, into every sport, to be honest. And as I said, entrepreneurial, loved dealing with people, and sort of just combined the two. I set up at 15. It was very different to what it was now, but it was and actually, to be honest, like a cricket equipment company. And then that just evolved. Like people say, how do I start? You know, I didn't have any connections. I didn't have any, you know, no one in my family loved sport, yet alone cricket or anything like that. I just wanted to. I didn't even know, to be honest, at the time what I wanted to do. I loved doing what I was, which was just sport, being around in the right environments and stuff. And thought I stayed by sort of the right values. I was tried to be a good person in business in general. Worked hard and looked for the long term. And necessarily, you know, I weren't making much money at all. But you know, I just backed myself in the long term for that to happen. And then the Apprentice came about, and I'm sure we'll go into that later on. But it's just been crazy and very, very humbling.
Definitely. Thank you very much for that answer. Just to let everyone in the audience know, please try your best to like get your questions prepared for Dean. Obviously, after I'm done talking, which will be soon, you'll be able to ask him yours. And we'll definitely get into your business and the Apprentice more. But you spoke about being young and being an entrepreneur. So here's a question for you. Do you think entrepreneurs are born or they're made?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think about this a lot. And I think, to be honest, my gut feel is like it's a bit of both maybe. But for my honest opinion, I think a lot of it is, you know, your environment and how you know, the situations around you from when you're very, very young, the people you're with, maybe your background, your parents, the way you live, where you live, how your parents raise you and all that sort of stuff. So probably more made, because look, there's always that cliche argument that people who come from very, very wealthy families generally, and this is I agree or disagree with this, but this is just the statement people make, to say that people who come from those backgrounds aren't motivated or entrepreneurial, which is just not true, because it depends on the person. You can have someone who comes from zero, and you can have someone who comes from billions and billions of pounds, and they might have the same, etc. So it just depends. I think everyone's different, and at the same time, and it's interesting, obviously, with your society and the title of it and what you guys are about, is that, you know, not everyone is meant to be an entrepreneur. I don't think people think it's cool nowadays to be an entrepreneur. Oh, you know, next this, next that. But you know, it's not always about that. It's about being self-aware and stuff like that, which we'll go into.
True. Okay. Usually hosts don't do this, but just to add my 2 cents. For me, I believe like entrepreneurs are genuinely made. I feel like you can't compare it to like the NBA or Premier League football, where you're built a certain type of way. When it comes to entrepreneurship, because it's so dynamic, entrepreneurs are so different. The best entrepreneurs, none of them are the same. They're all different. As to where NBA players are usually quite tall or quite physically gifted, I feel like entrepreneurship transcends that, and so many different type of people can be entrepreneurs, even if you think it's not meant for you. That's one thing that our society always promotes. Like, it's not all about where you come from or who you are. It's just about where you want to go or who you want to become. But I definitely respect what you say and definitely agree to an extent about what you were saying as well. Definitely. So talk to us about day-to-day right now, like your business, what it is first, if you don't mind answering that, like what it is, what you do specifically, so the audience knows, and then talk about day to day, how you run it?
Yeah, so I run a company called Fine Age Cricket, which is now slowly diversifying into Fine Age Sports and Entertainment. Hasn't been launched yet or announced, I should say. Essentially, we are sports agents, so been in the game now for 4 or 5 years. We are representatives of athletes, international boys, like the England team, Pakistan team, South Africa, guys around the world. So, I don't know how many people here are interested in cricket, but obviously with the emergence of T20 cricket and all the money that brings in and the commercialization of the game, and in sport in general, even more in football, these athletes, if you play for England, wherever you play, you're not necessarily a footballer or a cricketer. You are a brand, as cliche as that sounds. Someone was saying to me the other day, when you go in a plane, you don't just sit in a plane. You are in Emirates or you're in British Airways. Everything nowadays is a brand. And so the agent's role is just to sort of capitalize that and utilize that in the right way. And effectively, that can involve a whole 360 service. So contract negotiations, PR, social media. In cricket, there's a lot of T20 stuff, as I said, which is involved in getting the right contracts in the right place and obviously the right price. So stuff like that. And it's very, look, I find it, I'm into sport and I find it quite cool is the right word, but it's a fun, look, you got to love what you do, and I love what I do. And so you asked me day to day. So it varies. Every day, to be honest, is different. Out for dinner last night with one of my players. That's fun. Tomorrow I might be, I think I'm driving up to Birmingham. Got to see someone there. A few different bits and bobs. So every day is different, to be honest. There's no real structure, but that's the beauty of it.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate the answer. Something for you to think about. I'm sure you face this a lot. Because you're quite young, you said you're 21, and you're starting to run your own business. Do you feel like your age is more of a barrier or a gift? Obviously, it could be both, but for example, the people that you manage, do they tend to be older than you, or your players or anything like that? Is there like a barrier where your age is limiting you, or you think it's pushing you forward? What do you think about that?
Great question. Before I went on The Apprentice, it was probably, I think, the single most thing I thought about, not just in business, but in life. I've done some, I look back on it silly and ridiculous, in that I remember, when I went out 16, when I first did it, my first deal, went out to Dubai, and I remember purposefully, not, it sounds stupid, keeping as much facial hair as I could on my trying to basically grow a beard, right?
Yeah, of course, I know that.
For weeks and weeks and weeks, and it was all obviously bum fluff, nothing serious. It looked awful, and getting in trouble at school, they didn't like that. Just so in that half term when I went away, I could look a bit older than I did. Obviously, I was lucky, I was a big lad, I was tall, I'm 6'1". But yeah, silly stuff like that. And that the reason for that is because I was so worried, because in the industry, and to an extent in any industry, it shouldn't matter how old you are. But I think there is an unconscious bias. But your
Definitely.
job as an entrepreneur is to sort of prove that wrong. You don't need to sit and worry about it, which I did at the time, admittedly. But you should just think, look, that exists. You've got to be 10 times better. If you've got to be 10 times better, then you've got to do it. So yeah, I'd say it was definitely an issue. Especially, look, if you can, just to give the most obvious example, if tomorrow it comes out in the press that Cristiano Ronaldo is represented by an 18-year-old kid, however good that 18-year-old kid is, people probably would not take the piss a little, but people would look at that and be like, 18 years old.
Of course, definitely, yeah.
And obviously all my clients were, now I've got a variety of lads, around 35, some are 23, a bit older than me. And so, yeah, generally they are all older than me. But it's about how good you are, and that's the baseline. Whatever industry you are, it doesn't matter if you're not an agent or into sport, whatever. In business, there's no point worrying about it. Yes, you're going to face discrimination. We're talking about age. It could be about racism. It could be about anything. But the point is, my whole stance on it is, yes, it exists. It's awful, and we should do everything we can to eradicate it. But from a business perspective, if you've got to be 10 times better, go out there and do it and sort of smash it.
Love that answer, yeah, because I want to believe that even if you're at a disadvantage, then you just have to work twice as hard. So I love that answer. Completely agree with that. Let's get into your apprentice journey. Obviously, what a lot of people know you for. Let's talk about the beginning, your mindset when you're applying. What led you to decide, yeah, I need to apply for this? Was it the actual business deal with Lord Sugar, the 50% stake and the money you get? Or was it let me get my brand out there? What led you to actually decide to go for it?
Not many people know this. I actually applied the year before. So when I was doing my A-levels, I redid some stuff in my gap year, went through the process, got offered it. So that would have been season 14, and was sort of basically in a dilemma. my whole family particularly wanted me to obviously do my A-levels, and to be honest, now I can understand that it's a bit of the basic minimum sort of thing for me at that time. Whereas I had this opportunity, and I thought to myself, if I give this up, there's no guarantee I'm going to get this again. And I spoke to them, and they were like, no, you know, we can't. You might not even get through the first round next year. There's no guarantee.
True.
I sort of at the time took a deep breath and just followed my parents' vision, which to be honest was right. And then that whole year, then started at Nottingham, and I was just thinking. I remember actually, I was sitting in Broadgate Park, and I saw on my laptop, and I saw other people in my flat watching Apprentice, and it was all a bit made me feel uncomfortable. And I saw the day it got announced. I was sitting in my bed in Broadgate Park, saw it on my iPhone, and I was like, that should be me. I literally couldn't physically watch The Apprentice because I was like, that should be me. It made me feel uncomfortable because I'd given up such an amazing opportunity.
Yeah, of course.
I just didn't even like talking about it, thinking about it, whatever. So then the year came about to apply. I think we've maybe like January, February time. Applied, and it all happens very quickly. And obviously, some of them later on in the process obviously would have recognised me from the year before. And thankfully and very humbly, got offered to go on it again, and not look back since.
Perfect. That's amazing.
Why? For me, I think it was more. Yes, of course. Look, Lord Sugar, what a better sort of business partner to work with. But also, I think for me, it was about, from a business perspective, growing a profile and getting out there, and obviously the stuff to come off of the back of the show. It's been almost life changing. It's been good. It's been crazy at times, and very, as I said, very, very humbling and grateful. But yeah, it's been good from a business perspective, and just growing my profile and getting my name out there.
That's amazing. Thanks for that answer. Okay. Just let you know, this is not a biased question from the host. I'm asking for a friend, not for me. But let's say supposedly someone wants to apply for the Apprentice in the next coming years. How would they go through that process? What would they need to do first? Like, talk to us about that.
Look, firstly, it's such an intense process. Like, no one will be able to understand how intense it is without sort of going through it. Just to be brief about it, you have no phone for 2 months. For me, that's a big thing, but that's like the least important thing. No family contact. You can't leave this house for 2 months or up to 2 months, however far you get. You can't, without sounding weird, they sleep outside your rooms. You're not allowed to talk to people unless there's like you're chaperoned everywhere you go. If you're on set, and not even on set, if you're doing whatever, and you want to go to say the loo, you have to ask them. They chaperone you there. They wait outside, and so you're treated like that for 2 months, and it obviously can get very, very pressurized and intense. I went into that process as, to be honest, I wouldn't say cocky, but very confident, borderline cocky, cheeky chap, Essex 20-year-old, thinking I knew everything. And I came out of the process and I was like, I'm confident, don't get nervous. Suddenly, when 3, 4, 5 cameras are sort of thrown on you, and you've got Lord Sugar sort of screaming at you, and then more about a product which I had absolutely no clue about, like happened a couple of times. Things change. As I said, in life, I don't really get nervous. I'm very, very confident. But you learn a lot in that process. So in terms of applying, I'd say a few things. Like, it's not for everyone. I'd say if you can back yourself in the boardroom, and it's easy to say that, but if you really think you're firing, you got something about you, and you don't have to be extroverted. It just necessarily means, as I said, you can back yourself. Then of course, go for it. You have to apply. They usually advertise it for on the shows and stuff. The registrations will be open. Very, very easy, like 3, 4, 5 questions. And you go in there, and it's very cutthroat. Literally, they throw most people out after 30 seconds. They ask you a question. You just got to stand out. To be honest, and we'll go into it, I'm sure. I don't really think the show, to be honest, is massively this is controversial, but a business sort of platform. It's a TV show. It is a balance, but I don't think it tests your business acumen. They're looking for people with interesting dynamics, interesting personalities, different backgrounds, etc. But yeah, look, if you want to apply, go for it. It's been an unbelievable experience, and more importantly, I've learned so much from a personal perspective, and I'd like to think become a better person and entrepreneur.
Definitely, I'll let my friend know. My friend that's asking, I'll let my friend know. Well, really appreciate all the questions you answered for me. I want to start opening up to the floor. I believe the way we're going to do this is people are going to type messages in the chat, and then they'll ask their questions. If people don't know how to do that, some people aren't really good at using Zoom, you can unmute yourself and then throw a question out. I'll give it like a minute. Sorry, go for it.
No, go on. I was going to say, this is going to get messy.
We'll see how this works. Yeah, actually, yeah, people, could you just please message your questions in the chat, because a lot of people don't actually know how to use Zoom properly, so they might not actually know how to do that. That's what I'm worried about. But yeah, people do know how to do it. Perfect. So I'll let some questions build up, start asking them, and then we'll see where we go. So first one we've got: what advice would you give to anyone who wants to run a business when they're older?
I'd say, firstly, ask yourself why. Do you want to be running a business because you think you're going to have 20 Ferraris outside and you're going to be rich? Okay, interesting. Do you think you want to run a business because it's easy? It's more interesting. Do you think it's something cool? You don't want to have a 9 to 5, and you can work less. Then, if it's one of those reasons, I'd say you're almost setting up for failure. And you learn. As I said, I'm still learning every day. I, in my opinion, haven't achieved anything. I will hopefully one day, but right now I haven't, and I'll be the first to say that. But yeah, I'd say in terms of advice, find out why, and make sure you're in it for the right reasons. And then 2, advice, I'd say find something you actually enjoy. There is no point, in my opinion, it's just an opinion, I think you will never be successful in something you're not passionate about. And I just think it's because I just don't think it's long term. To be in that success, the 1% people talk about, you're going to have to work those 14, 15 hours a day at some point. And if you don't enjoy it, or you're doing it for the Rolexes, or you're doing it for this, or you're doing it for that, then you will give up naturally, because it sometimes will get boring. So, yeah, that's my answer in terms of advice.
Perfect. Thanks for the answer. Just to keep it clear, the way we're going to do it is, if you have any questions, please just drop them in the messages to keep it clean. Sorry for the confusion before. So next question: what's the most important thing you've learned from The Apprentice and your business experience? That's kind of 2 questions, but you can go for The Apprentice one and then business experience next if you want.
From The Apprentice, I would say probably mental strength. As I said, that process is so intense, and literally to explain this boardroom, and you're just thrown in there, you don't know what it is. It's so intense. As I said, you can tell I'm naturally fairly confident. I like to think when you're in there, they have 6 cameras on you everywhere, massive boardroom. You're in there again. You won't know this, but literally 7-8 hours. You're in silence. They build up tension. They play with your mind. And then you choose, if you're in that bottom 3, and not many people know this, they will then, one by one, you're all put in a separate van. This sounds a bit weird. A separate van with a executive producer. And so I'm there in the first week, and it was never really my fault. So I never thought I was going to get fired. It was pretty clear. And he goes to me, Dean, you're about to get fired here. And I'm thinking, first episode, this producer's telling me I'm about to get fired. I went from being so chilled, not chilled, it's still pressurizing, but to
yeah.
What do you mean? What do you mean? And then what they do, they play with your head. So he was telling me, well, Lord Sugar don't like, not gameplays, but he's like, you don't like, not bullying, but going for one person. You've got to blame someone else if you want to stay in this process, blah, blah, blah. And then they play with your heads. You have that for day in, day out, weeks, and you're monitored and this and that. It tests you. It does test you. So,
yeah.
And to be honest, in my life before that, I hadn't really been tested to that extent. So massively grateful, as I said, and I probably would say I've learned mental strength, if anything. Business, learned from business experience. I would just say this as well, and I said this earlier, which is almost ironic, because I said when you start a business, you shouldn't think about the money and stuff like that. Well, as any 16, 17-year-old does to an extent, you do think about the money. And, when I was young, I'd say I chased, certain deals I did was maybe for the short term, whereas now, and I realized very quickly, my whole way forward was for the long term and build for the long term. And the whole advantage, and this is for everyone here quite relevant, if you're young in whatever business, use it to your advantage. I even now would go and say to someone, if I needed to, whatever industry I'm learning, I would go work somewhere for free. What we can do that at our age, generally speaking. This is the age where, again, typically speaking, we don't have loads of bills to pay or massive families to look after personally, etc., etc. Of course, there are exceptions, but that's my sort of 2 cents, and I'd say take advantage of that.
Perfect. Thank you. Appreciate that. I hope everyone got that. Very good answer from Dean. Quick one from me, actually. Who are your inspirations? Who motivates you? Who do you look up to? Maybe read their books, listen to their podcasts, interviews. Who are the people that you wake up, you're like, yes, this person makes me want to work harder?
Yeah, to be honest with you, I, as a British Pakistani, Essex born and bred individual, never really had a role model to look up to. I watched a lot of like motivational stuff and entrepreneurial stuff. So before, when I was young, it was more Eric Thomas, which was just like pure motivation.
So you know about ET,
Yeah, of course. But now it's less ET and it's more Gary V. I listen to a lot of Gary V. Like, you know, usually I haven't done it today, but usually whenever I'm talking about anything, I'm just like, oh yeah, Gary V says this, Gary V says that.
You and me both, yeah, definitely. Amazing guy.
Brainwashed by him. But yeah, I'd say Gary Vee talks a lot of sense because, you know, he doesn't say, you know, you should work 15 hours a day, you should work 16 hours a day. That's not smart. He talks about being self-aware and actually knowing what you want. And then, you know, if you don't want to, for example, be in the top 1%, you just want to live a good life and be happy, that's more than, you know, fine. Everyone's got to decide what they actually want, you know what I mean? There's no point.
Definitely.
Everyone's different. Any
books you're reading now as well? Any books or anything like that?
If I must admit, I'm not a great reader. It's a habit I'm trying to get into. I've got one here, but I've also got Think and Grow Rich, which I've started reading. But like I said, it's something I need to improve. I'm not a massive reader. I need to find a more sustainable way. But have you got that one there as well?
Yeah, guys, I'm telling you, amazing book.
Let me flip it. So you've read it, yeah?
Yeah, I've read the whole book. Yeah, finished front to back. Yeah, taking notes and everything.
Thoughts, and be honest. Like, would you say unbelievable, like life changing, or you say good book?
You know what? Yeah, when people can you see my camera? By the way.
Yeah.
Okay. When people talk about Think and Grow Rich, I feel like it's only life changing if your mind is open. Because a lot of people will be like, "What can a book teach me? It's just a book. This is fiction." You know what I mean? You come into a book thinking there's not much it can teach me. But I'll be very honest, this book has, like, certain aspects of the book has taught me more than I could ever learn in whole, like, secondary school education. Things that you just don't learn, that you're not taught, but you have to be very open-minded and very, like, self-aware, because it's talking about your life, but you're not going to get it because you're not self-aware, so you don't know the problems in your life, if that makes sense. But I think it's an amazing book, one of my favorites. I'm a big fan of, like, self-help books, like Rich Dad Poor Dad and all that kind of stuff. So
also, guys and girls watching, if you're watching, post on Instagram, tag me, and I'll restore it.
Go for it, guys. Make sure you do that.
All right, sorry, mate. Go on.
Yeah, no worries. So I love the book as well. Read it like last year. I might read it again. Reading a different. I've even got Gary V's book right here. Just finished it. Have you read it?
Reading it more than me, mate. I need to get to your level, mate.
I love reading. I love reading. So, but what about podcasts? Anything you listen to?
Yeah, listen to a lot of podcasts. Again, Gary V, Lewis Morgan, who the Gymshark, young English guy, very relatable, and just through, again, pure work ethic. Like, so, you know, he's on a different level, and, you know, people like us and me, you know, I feel like I can, you know, learn a lot from him. I think we all can. What he's done in business and how, and just pure crazy work ethic. But
just for the audience, just to let you know, I'm kind of asking Dean these kind of questions, like what books he reads, people he listens to, so you can jump into his mind, because he learns from other people. Do you know what I mean? He's not like creating everything as he goes along. Entrepreneurship is quite a lot of the time handed down from other entrepreneurs' ways of doing things. So just make sure you're keeping note of what he's doing as well, so you can kind of jump on that as well. But let me get back to audience questions. So starting a business when you were a teenager, in the first few months, years, what did you learn? Yeah, how steep was the learning curve, if that makes sense?
Yeah, I would say very, very quickly I learned things. Again, the main thing is working for the long term. I know it all sounds very cliche, but if I give you a practical example, you know, I learned that instead of, for example, trying to broker deals and do that sort of stuff, I wanted to actually be the key decision maker in the long term, i.e. the agent. So I wouldn't have to go to another agent and work with another player and say, I've got this deal. Yeah. I wanted to be almost the kingpin in that situation. So again, I just say, again, Gary Vee says it, life's a marathon, not a race. Again, cliche, but I think it's just so true. Working for the long term rather than, you know, for the short term. And I think if you then expect it's going to happen in 1, 2 years, 3 years, you're already setting yourself up for failure. It's a long-term game, and again, so cliche, but, you know, no success is overnight.
No, the cliches are important. That's like, for example, something I think people overlook. That's what I mean about having an open-minded, like kind of thinking about the cliches, like life is a marathon, not a race, and what that actually means, thinking for the long term, not the short term. So no, you're dropping some important quotes there. If you guys take anything from the day, make sure you jump on Gary V, because I can testify to what Dean's saying. Amazing person to listen to. It was changed. Amazing.
Pure gold.
Amazing. So we got another question here. How did you get your first client in the cricket agency?
Yeah, so there's an extent to, as you can imagine, 15 or 16-year-old trying to represent these international cricketers. I had no idea, didn't know anyone in the industry, no idea what I was doing. And I think back now, I remember some people asking me some very basic questions and I literally had no idea. I looked like an absolute idiot. But to an extent, you've got to not fake it till you make it, because I don't like that, because it gives other connotations. But you just have to almost act on the job. Had to learn very quickly. And that's what I did. So in terms of getting my first clients, it was that, then going out there, just doing the little 1%ers. That is so important. I remember my client now, and to be honest, he doesn't even know this. I'm really close mates with him. Anyone interested in cricket, Ravi Bapara. I wasn't his agent at the time, but did a deal for him, and something went wrong with the transport, nothing to do with me, to the airport. And I remember waking up Sunday morning and his flight was in a few hours, and maybe stupidly some would say, but I just rung up like a luxury chauffeur company, got him like an unbelievably nice car, which was probably unneeded, but the little 1%ers there, invested my own money and just got him there in style to the airport. And it's the little 1%ers think, oh look, this guy isn't just normal, he's not good, he is exceptional. That's the impression you want to give. So I think always do the 1%ers, and I've always done that, generally speaking. Like, again, this is almost a weird, maybe relatable example to people. I was, again, probably 15, did some work experience with the company my sister was working at PwC. A lot of you probably applying there at the moment. I don't know. Just some basic work experience, very, very young. And we were all sort of given our own laptops and logins and stuff like that for the 2 weeks. And the person supervising us was telling us the structure of the company, and there was this global head called Ian Powell, and all of us little 15-year-old kids with our own emails and our laptops they're giving us, we're sort of teasing each other, saying to each other, oh, I dare you to email Ian Powell, I dare you, and we were obviously not going to do that. And so I thought, you know what, I'm going to do it. So I just said, yeah, I've done it, guys. And I told the supervisor, and I got told off. He's like, what are you doing? Why are you emailing? He's like, he's the global head of PricewaterhouseCoopers, one of the biggest companies. And I just thought, I'm a 15-year-old kid, like, F it, like, what's going to happen? Literally 10 minutes, I was getting blasted by the supervisor. 10 minutes later, I get an email back, and it's from someone called, I think it's Ben Jones, something like that. And he said, hi, Dean, just picking up this for Ian. Ian's away with the royal family at the moment. Just like, wow, okay. And then would love to meet for a coffee, happy to do so, blah, blah, blah. And we met for coffee. And look, nothing came from it. But, you know, it's those little 1%ers. If you do those things, you do, you know, be a good person, do the little things, good things happen to you, and you know the results are endless.
Yeah, thank you for that story, because one lesson that I got from that I always like to deploy in life wherever I am, do the things that other people aren't doing. Because when he was getting there to send that email and he was taking a risk, because business is all about risk, like prospering life is all about taking those risks. When you take those risks, the best things come out of them. So that was an amazing story there. Let's get into this.
Yeah, I don't want to be too be portrayed as like too motivational or too this and too cliche, because there's so much out there. If I were to give like one practical tip to everyone, and I'm still learning, as I said, but one thing I do, and I've realized very quickly, LinkedIn is an unbelievable platform, right? Guys and girls, if you, I'm just going to give the most random example, and actually, if you're going to take anything away from this, listen to this, yeah? Pick an interest, what you're genuinely interested in. Say, for example, this is random, shoes. If I was that person, what I would be doing, I would be, if you're like want to design shoes, whatever, I would type in Nike design, Nike assistant of whatever, UK, global, London, Nike shoe designer, Nike assist producer, whatever it is. I don't know the relevant terms of that industry. And Adidas, New Balance, Umbro, all the brands. And if you've got to pay for LinkedIn premium because you're spamming too many people, not spam, I'll go into that, but do it and send genuine messages, because people buy into people, right? This is a good little nugget of information. People buy into people. If you are a bad person, you're arrogant, you're cocky, or you think you know it all, people don't like you. People buy into business ideas, but more importantly, people invest and buy into people. So what I'd say is LinkedIn, go out there and message everyone. If you message someone who works at Nike and they design shoes, they're the head guy, and they get a message from an 18-year-old kid, 19-year-old kid saying, hi, I'm really hardworking. This is what I've done. I don't want money. I don't want anything. I would just love to meet you for coffee. And listen, that's where you back yourself. You go meet them and you do the 1%ers. You buy them a coffee. You turn up half an hour early or 20 minutes early. You already buy them a coffee when they come there. And a cake, for example, whatever. I don't know. I'm literally thinking on the top of my head here.
Yeah.
1%ers, and you show them what you've done. You come with all your drawings or whatever it is. It could be anything. It doesn't matter what industry it is. LinkedIn, use it and do the 1%ers. Stand out and be that kid where you want to, for example, if you meet with that person, that producer, they should walk away from that meeting thinking to themselves, and maybe they tell their partner when they get home, wow, that kid's got something about him or her. So yeah, leave the good impression for them.
Amazing advice straight from the handbook of Gary Vee. Amazing advice like that. Honestly, I can testify to that as well. I've actually achieved some success from just messaging people on LinkedIn and just going out there and reaching out to people, because it's not the ordinary thing to do. When teachers tell you to apply for work experience, they're telling you to just go on websites and go for it.
Yeah.
Do stuff out of the ordinary, like message people. And yeah, if the first person doesn't reply, or the 10th or 100th doesn't reply, the 200th might, and that could change your life or set you up for success. And all it was is what, 200 messages?
Spam. Don't send spam. And
of course, yeah, no spam. Yeah.
Don't copy and paste the same message. Make it personable. If you see someone,
definitely,
the person at night, as an example, has been to university in Nottingham, be like, no way. I've also, make it relatable. Or
definitely.
Spanish. Make it quirky, make it different, and stand out. You know what I mean? Because I'm telling you, as I said, people buy into people. If you're a good person with good morals and you're good to people, good things happen to you. I truly believe that.
Definitely. And people love talking about themselves. They love talking about what they do. So if you ask them for coffee to tell me about what you do, trust me, they'll be quite happy to do that. So
100%. As I said, I've said it before, but take a picture of this, tag me, Dean Ahmad, AHMAD_, post it, I'll restore it. Cool.
Perfect. So another question we got is it possible to balance school and working on your business and work on your business? Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great question. I think people probably underestimate, how possible it is. You go out there and you think, look, fine, if you're at school, you come home at 4 or 5, do your homework, get it out of the way. Look, if you really want things, you would get it. If you want something in life, if you actually want it as bad as you want to breathe, without being cliche, you will get it. If that means you have to then, for example, get to the point where you have to do your homework at lunch or in the library, whatever, go out there and do it. And if you really get to that point, then you can use all your time after school, and the opportunities are endless. I think people love to make excuses. I used to be the king of excuses. Honestly, you wouldn't believe it. I used to make every excuse in the book, and I realised it's so pathetic for me. But that's just my opinion.
Yeah. Dean, by the way, just let us know because Dean's a busy man, people. So whenever he needs to go, we'll start to wrap it up. But next question. How was the experience in the Apprentice house with the other contestants? Was it competitive or friendly?
Yeah, I'm a very sociable guy. I love meeting people, love talking to people, love not messing around, but just, again, being social. And to be honest, I'd say like the vast majority, or to be honest, everyone I got along with. Obviously, naturally, as a person, you have your likes and dislikes. But look, it was good. And to be honest, if I look back on it now, maybe I was probably too sociable. I was too comfortable, and I probably would have been a bit better to be a bit more serious and realise I'm there for a competition and a serious investment, whatever. But look, it was great, friendly. Met some lifetime friends in there. Karina, great, sharp businesswoman, ruthless. Scarlett is crazy as well. Very, very strong businesswoman. And I remember, I think it was 2 weeks in, and we were talking about it. For example, who do you think's going to not win, but who do you think's a strong candidate? And for me, it's very clear quickly that Scarlett had a lot about her. Very sharp. And if you are, for example, a young businesswoman here, message her. She'll reply. Say I told you. Say I put you in touch or whatever. I'm more than happy to do so. And she is crazy what she's achieved in life, and just how she acts and her business acumen, incredible.
I'm guessing you're all busy people, but are there any do you guys ever meet up for a weekend for drinks or anything?
Yeah, there was a period where we used to meet all the time. Obviously, with Corona and people are getting on with their own lives now. It's different, but funny enough, I met Karina a couple of weeks ago, and again, very ironic. I'm meeting Scarlett probably tomorrow, day after. I'm heading to Birmingham. But yeah, we're all good friends, most of us, bar one or two, which I'm sure you can make out.
Yeah, no problem. Appreciate that. Another question we got here. would you advise in investing in anything outside of your own business, like, for example, shares or going into property?
Look,
what do you think?
I don't like it when people, for example, comment on things they don't really know. I don't know shares and property. I'm not, into that. So I'm not going to try and waffle my way or do that and advise people when I don't know. I think obviously from a basic point of view, it's important to invest. And again, something I didn't really mention, my probably worst regret in business and in life is my money spending habits. I was a young kid, 15, 16, 17, 18, as I said, going into business, and got a bit of money here and there, and I would just spend it, waste it. And it's a very Essexy thing, for example, to keep up with the Joneses and stuff like that, which was probably a weakness. And you learn very quickly, and I've learned now. Finally, got to that point. But yeah, be sensible with your money, and i.e. to the point and the question asked. Yeah, I mean, if I, for example, from the first deal I did, started saving, which is a basic, I've been, a lot better situation. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think anyone. So it is hard when you're a young kid. And you do need to go out there and make mistakes, like I've done. But I could have learnt my lessons a lot quicker, put it that way.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. What was the spending like luxury stuff, like designer clothes, or what was it like?
Everything, mate. Honestly, I used to be so lazy and I never used to cook, so I used to get takeaways every day. Everything, mate, everything. So, yeah, and I look back at, at the time you think you're cool, and this was, as I said, it's a very Essexy thing. And now I look back on it, I'm like, that is so embarrassing for me, for what I want, on the person who I want to become. So as I said, we all make mistakes. I make some every day, still making some, made loads of them. And I'm definitely no one special. Still learning every day, trying to become a better person.
Perfect. As all good entrepreneurs should adapt to the situation, how's COVID been for your business? Slowed it down, sped it up? How's it been?
Yeah, look, it's been difficult in that there's no, obviously it's back on now, but there's a period where no sports, particularly
of course.
Now around the T20 tournaments, which is where a lot of the bulk of money is. There's no real certainty about what's going to happen, so it's had a massive effect. The government, I think, have been great in terms of their support for businesses and the grants and for young people and businesses in general, but yeah, it's been difficult. Launching another business to do with brunches, the Brunch Club London. So as I said, follow my socials and make sure you attend. It'll be the best brunches to come to the UK. But basically, yeah, of course, brunches are all awkward time because of the restrictions of coronavirus and all this sort of stuff. So yeah, it's been difficult. It's been tough. But as I said, without going into it, but shit happens in life. It's tough, and you just got to have that perseverance and resilience. It's easy to say, to really sort of knuckle down and think, yeah, fine, but you're going to see through it and go 10, 20 times better.
Appreciate that answer. Thank you. Just so we can give our audience something to walk away with, if you had some, obviously, like a lot of people here, either your age or a bit younger than you, like myself, 2 years younger than you, if you had advice for people that want to go down the same path as you or a similar path, what do you think is important for them to know in terms of business, in terms of life? What advice do you think is key, very important?
Yeah, great question, mate. I'd say, again, one, self-awareness. Realize who you are. I'm trying to not sound cliche because I hate it. I want people to really understand and be practical about it. Who you are and what you enjoy. The way the world is, he preaches this a lot, the way the world is now, if you like, I'm trying to think of something random here, Harry Potter or shoes or whatever it is, there are ways now the world is that you can go out there and commercialize that interest. Of course, and then it leads into my second point, in that networking, you don't have to be an extrovert. Being an extrovert isn't necessarily a good thing. You can be who you are. There's no good person or bad person. There's no good type of person. Everyone is different. You can be an introvert and a lovely person. You can be an extrovert and a bad person, whatever. But be a networker if you can, because if you want to be in the business world, that is important. As I said, having those relationships with the right people, being around the right people. And to be honest, one thing I haven't really touched on, without going away from the point too much, is your circle from a social point of view. This has been absolutely massive to me, and probably, I wouldn't say detriment, but something I've learned increasingly in the last 18 months. Again, it's people say it all the time, but really looking at who you surround yourself with, and people say it's your 5 closest friends. If you hang around with them, and whether it's financially or socially, whatever it is, you will become a reflection of those 5 friends. So I look from a personal point of view, people who know me will probably know this, look to myself 18 months ago or whatever, and realize very, very quickly, fine, look, these are great people, but is that what I want to be like? And is that the right direction I'm going in, and all these different things? And the answer was probably not. So I had to make some tough decisions. and sort of surround myself with, again, not necessarily rich people, of course not necessarily, even successful people, to be, because we're all still learning, you know. I wouldn't say myself now, but good people with good morals, who are good people in life, because then you know, being around good energy and stuff like that has its knock-on effects.
Yeah, and just to reiterate, the cliches, you probably heard it all before, and we've said a lot throughout this phone call, throughout this meeting, but the cliches are actually important. They're cliches for a reason. They're golden. They're like testament stone. It'll never change. So he made some important references there, like your 5 closest people to you, or yeah, just all that kind of stuff. Cliches are very important, people. I had to learn that the hard way, because I'll be like, yeah, I've heard this before. But once you actually start to knuckle down and understand the cliches, life substantially improves. Before we go, any last minute questions for people are holding on to before we wrap up?
I would say I want to shout out my friend who's here, I think Gabriella. So shout out to Gabriella.
Shout out to Gabriella. Dean acknowledges you, so it must be an important friend.
Of course, great individual. Any other questions?
Yeah, just to reiterate as well, if you quickly take a picture of Dean's face, slap on Instagram, tag him, cool, and then repost. He said he'll repost it. Hopefully you will stick to that. So,
of course, as I said, always back in Nottingham. I was probably going to come back end of this week, but the corona situation it's not great there.
Yeah.
I was always back. I was back there loads last year. As I said, unbelievable city, great people, and I had the time of my life there. So I'll be back. So follow me on Insta, message me, and tag me, as I said, and let's see what happens.
Guys, also make sure to follow him on LinkedIn as well, because like he testified to, amazing place to be. That's where all the business deals are being made. Want to get work experience the unordinary way, that's the place to be as well. Last question. Good question to end off. Is Nottingham the best uni in the UK?
Well, as I said earlier, I can only comment on what I know. From my experiences, then of course, mate, unbelievable university, great city, great crowd.
Yeah.
Everything.
I'll testify. I think Nottingham is one of the best unis as well, I'll be very honest. But yeah. Any final words, Dean? You've been amazing. Thank you so much for everything. Any final words?
I appreciate that. Thanks for having me, boys and girls, folks. And yeah, again, probably cross paths at one point. Thanks a lot.
Okay. Everyone in the audience, we really appreciate you for coming down. Hope you learned something, got a few points. Make sure you try your best to reach out to Dean, ask him for advice. As you can tell, he's a very nice, amazing guy. So I'm sure he'll answer any of your questions. And yeah, really appreciate it again, Dean. Thank you for coming down.
No worries. Thanks, guys. Take care, everyone. Stay safe. Cheers.
Thank you. Bye. Appreciate it.